I guess Pastor Eric asked me to reflect on the brand new things that God is doing in my life, in this church, in the community, and that's he requested this around the time that I also heard word from my parents that the pastor in my old church had passed away, and he was somebody who was like 80 years old and in a nursing home, but he really made a positive impact on my life. And one of the things that I remember a sermon that he mentioned was about feeding the 5,000. And in this story, of course, you know well that with the 5 loaves and 2 fish that the disciples kind of muster from just around, God multiplies what the people have to feed 5,000 people. But I remember the pastor of my old church said, what's the greater miracle? Is it that you sort of have this multiplicity sort of miracle of feeding the 5,000 with just so little? Or is it also the fact that 5,000 people's hearts were changed on that day? And so I think about this when I reflect on me joining attending this church a year and a half ago. So some of you may not know my origin story. Pauline and I have been friends for a long time, since I was a grad student, and she was an admin in my grad advisor's lab, and we used to chatter a whole ton outside of his office, and he'd have to come out and tell us we should, one of us should go back to work at least. And so when I moved to Belmont, she was like, why don't you come and sing in our choir and join and attend this church? And some of you may have not known that I had gone to church for regularly. I guess I was I grew up in a church. Attended until 2009, that's another story. And then had this long hiatus of about 14 years before coming to Payson Park Church. So what kind of retains how does a church even manage to sort of retain a person who has had this long on and off cycle of questioning atheism, agnosticism, and so forth, and then now I'm here nearly every week for 1.5 years. I think it speaks to just how loving and supporting the church is, and sort of the many opportunities in which I've been given to have my own heart changed through outreach events and ministry. And I think it's just amazing to see the many ways in which this church supports such ministries, and I'm so grateful to have been able to be a part of all of them, the outdoor church events or City Reach, and then of course things like First Friday and Compassion Camp, and that's allowed me to practice loving others, asking myself who is my neighbor, and sort of asking that in a very mindful way, and that wouldn't be possible without sort of our wonderful pastoral staff and staff in general, and all of you putting in sort of all of your time, resources, effort to be able to build this loving community that could retain a person and love a person like me. So thank you.